Part 4 of the alarm remote start installation. Okay, so like in the last video if you were watching, if not, tune in, subscribe, rate, comment, do all that stuff. This here is my alarm, which is already prepped up, you know. It's my alarm ignition harness, my auxiliary harness, my bypass, my locks, everything's all set. I do have a plan on taking this alarm and installing it right up underneath here. It's a great spot, really nice. You can hide that sucker way out of the way. I think it would be the best place for this system. It's going to look nice and clean. But when I do install it, I want to leave myself enough wire, but I don't want to leave myself a mess of wires. That's what I stress in my videos. If you've been watching them all, I am a clean freak, and I do try my best to be as professional as possible, and I'm trying to show you folks how to do the same. So I'm just going to straighten this out real quick. I already went through the trouble of finding all of my wires. I'm sure it would bore you to death to watch me do it. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to show you what I did in the ignition harness. In my ignition harness, I got here an accessory wire. The accessory wire should rest at ground. When you put it to the accessory position, it should show 12 volts, and during crank it should go out to ground and then come back when the key retracts. That's an accessory. Not to be confused with this guy. This is an ignition. Rest at ground. Accessory is not going to show anything. Ignition it will. It'll show power during crank. And of course power during ignition. Constant 12 volts is pretty self-explanatory. When the key is off, I forget which one it is, it's going to be hot all the time. Nothing really exciting happening there. For your starter, let me see, I think it's, which one is it? Is it this guy? Yeah. Of course, power during crank and only during crank. Now to move along, in here, this is where I located my brake switch. It'll rest at ground. Show 12 volts when I depress the brake. This guy over here, what the heck is this wire? I forget what this one is. I think that there's the parking lights. So it's going to rest at ground, show 12 volts when I turn those lights on and off. Only the first position, not the headlights, the second position. That's your parking lights. This guy here is my door trigger. This is a negative type of dome lights circuit, so it's going to rest at ground. When I push this door pin switch, it's going to rest at 12 volts. Open the door, it's going to go ground. So that's those guys. Down here, this is going to be a little hard to see, but down here, right through the driver's boot, I tried to get it up here. I know it's there someplace, but I didn't want to fudge around too long. But these are going to rest with a very, very low signal. But when you flip these door locks, you're going to see them switch. That's my lock. This is the other one, the unlock. So these are really all the main connections that you're going to use in an alarm and remote start system. Now, just the fun part of connecting it all. I'm going to start. I'm pretty systematic, kind of like most things that I do. If you don't do this all the time, you don't have to be crazy like I am. Just get the job done right. In this vehicle, take both of those powers, get them together. I'm getting a little tired, so I'm just going to go to my cheat sheet, which is right here. And I know my white red is my constant 12 volts. I always double check. Always check twice and connect once. It's the right way to do stuff. Let's get that out of your way. Now when I connect wires, I always do it the same way. I poke a hole, I take my new aftermarket connector, stick it through, wrap it around, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Some guys like to say that soldering is the best way to do things. Soldering is good, it has its places, but if you don't know what you're doing with soldering, you could actually do a lot more damage to your car than you think you're doing good. And the reason being is, number one, if you could solder this thing, this wire is going to get twice as fat, and it can also take that heat, gets the wire very hard, it can make it very brittle. It could transfer up to the key cylinder, it could actually lose your connection altogether. So if you don't know what you're doing with soldering, you don't have experience doing it, I would not suggest that you do it. Doing it this way is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. Because if you ever take the system out, put it into your next car, good luck taking that mess out of there. Try desoldering something. It's easy to solder, try desoldering. Easier said than done. I'm just going to prepare these wires. Now, about 1.5 inches or so is about all you need. Okay, so I'm going to do my... In this car here, there's 2 starter wires. There's a green black and a white black. And again, double check. Green black. Here's one, and the other one, starter 2, black, white. There's this guy right here. Now, some people think that you have to use an auxiliary relay off the primary starter output in order to do this, but I personally don't agree with that. I've actually had much more success just doing it the old-fashioned way and just putting them 2 together, because even though the cold start wire doesn't necessarily have to be engaged every single time, I just do it anyway. It does no damage to the car. It's fine. So instead of just going through that one wire, I'm going to go through this one, grab his little brother, and say hello to my little friend. These didn't exactly close very well. Don't like that. So what I'm going to do... Just close that. I want to try to always do good connections. It's always easier to do it right the first time than to fix it later. Take the extra minute. It's actually pretty weird to see 2 starter wires in a Toyota. Usually just find them in Nissans and stuff. Whatever, that's what it has. Okay, next one is this guy. This is going to be my accessory. This will turn on my heat. That's going to go here. And again, we want to test for an accessory. Perfect. That's what we need. So that's that. These 2 guys that are left over should be my primary ignition 1 and my ignition 2. Again, test. Oh, my legs are killing me. Good. Perfect. Noise out of here. On some systems, the alarm, it actually does matter if you use primary ignition 1 on a certain wire. Some of them don't. This one, not so much. Doesn't really matter. But if you had like an older GM or something like that, those things are very weird. So you definitely always want to give your love to that primary ignition 1 before you do second 2, because I've seen cars get done and they can't shift out of second gear and they wonder why. It's because their relay died or had a bad connection. Don't be that guy. It's no fun to be like that. These tech sheets and reading the manuals, it's not time wasted. I will usually wrap these guys up twice, and when I get done, I'm going to show you how to take the pressure off of these wires as well. Not that the alarm is going to be hanging off of it or anything like that, but you never know. The next guy comes along and puts in a strobe kit. There's a guy who owns this truck, puts a lot of that weird crap in his cars. He'll come along and put that big Welland strobe box in there and hang off of my wires. So don't want to mess up your stuff. So I got everything I need right there connected, nice, pretty. Now you take your wire tie, push it back about an inch or so from there. Put it nice and tight. So all your pressure is on here on that tie, not on your wiring. And just to do a little better, wrap around here just for the heck of it. Yep. I tightened it before I was ready to do it. You never know, this is supposedly good tape. If it turns out not to be such great tape, I'll make sure it stays there. So that's that part. Now, what we're going to do is, these wires that I pulled out from under the hood, this here is my siren, this here is my tack wire, and although the siren comes with really short wires, it's not a good practice to ground it outside. You're better off grounding it inside, because at least I can control this environment. Rust and water and stuff gets under there, so don't be lazy, run it inside, and at least you know it'll stay in good shape. I'm going to take a break because my knees are killing me. Tune into the next video that we're going to produce on this system.